Done, right? Damn, this fly.
What kind of fly is this?
I don't know. But he persistent.
Right, I think he went away.
But it must be the cologne. He's getting on my nerves.
Motivation and ambition is what got me far in life. There's only two ways out the struggle. Either you crawl or you fly. I'm talking titles, deeds, ownership. I'm not impressing, I'm investing. Now, that's ownership. Shout out to Nipsey's hustle. Now, we can all have ownership. Now that's ownership.
You live here in Raleigh?
No, I don't.
I ain't think so.
Yeah, nah, I stay on the outskirts of Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too bad.
Yeah, decent little drive.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah, I know. I got some family at Fort Bragg. Got some friends out that way. I don't be out there too much. I know there was a poetry event yesterday. I had ran across this guy at an event, and he was telling me about it. I didn't make it out there. The only person I knew that was on the lineup was Law.
I know Law.
Yeah.
I know Law.
So I was gonna try to get out there, but I had so much going on.
I don't really do a lot of events in Fayetteville. I'm not fond of it, only cause I used to, but the scene just never seems. I don't know.
You think that's because it's such because of the military?
It just doesn't seem like an artistic city.
I can.
So
I can see that.
so it's never really the vibe, I guess you could say I want. So like, if you just to compare it to City Soul, because I know you're super familiar with that.
Yeah, that
City,
flies in here.
right? City Soul is everybody's interacting and joyful, applauding the whole nine. Versus Fayetteville, to me, just always the crowd turnout isn't always great. So I don't know.
I see. I haven't been to. Shoot, have I? I've maybe been to one poetry event in Fayetteville.
What's it called? What's his name? LJ.
Yeah.
Oh, you know LJ?
Yeah, I saw him and Law came to City Soul last week.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay, so LJ, honestly, his events are typically decent, pretty
Right.
decent, because he has a pretty decent following, so they have a decent, turnout when he has an event. But other than that, it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, just a great vibe. I've used to do a lot of things there, and sometimes you go to an event and it might be 2 people in the crowd, 3 people, and that just, I don't know, it's not fun performing to 2, 3 people, because there's no interaction.
Zero.
So sometimes you
They
thrive
sitting
off
like
it.
this.
Yep.
and I already sit like that anyway. Like I'm not a very excitable person.
Right.
Like, inside I could be like, but
outside you're not
like,
gonna show it.
Right.
So if you got 2 people
one,
and then
2
one of them
elite.
is like that, and one of them like that, you only got one cheering.
It's a wrap.
There's no interaction, so that's never
That's
fun.
crazy. You haven't been to one of my Inspired shows yet, have
I
you?
haven't. No.
Have you seen, like,
So last time you had one, I don't know if you remember, because it's been a while, but you messaged me on Facebook and you was telling me about it, but I was overseas at the time. Yeah, I was in Kuwait City at that moment, so I couldn't come. But I do plan on coming this year as long as COVID doesn't shut the world back down.
Man, that's what I keep telling people. Like, you still have it in November 20th? I'm like, as long as COVID don't shut the world.
Like, hopefully, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what's popping.
But I definitely want to come.
Right. Man, so you said you was in Kuwait City?
Kuwait City.
Military?
Yeah. So I was in the military. I got out March of last year.
Okay. How long were you in?
6 years.
Okay. Appreciate your service.
No problem.
What made you go into the military?
Finances. So I guess you could say my parents, they weren't like in the best situation.
Right.
So I was really adamant about going to college, but it was like, how was I going to pay for college? Or even if I had financial aid, because I did graduate with a 4.0, so I was pretty intelligent. So, the scholarships or whatever would have been there. But I feel like I've had a financial mindset from a young age.
Right.
Like since 16, that's when I started making my own money.
Okay.
So it was like I didn't want to be that average broke college kid.
Right.
So I joined the reserves.
Right.
So I did that, but like I said, I did some time overseas. So I had the active component as well, which paid out in the long run as far as VA disability and things of that sort. but I joined just so they could help pay for school. So I would have a scholarship, them paying for school, and then at the same time I would be getting that drill check. So even if I didn't have a job per se, I was still gonna have some type of income.
Right.
Because like I said, I just didn't want to be that kid in college that was broke. Like I mean, most of them are. I mean, that's the norm.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to be the norm. I didn't
Right.
want to be financially, struggling or whatever, trying to get an education. That just didn't seem fun to me.
I almost did the same thing. I literally was just talking with a recruiter a few days ago. Got my hair, well, not a few days ago, a couple weeks ago, got my hair cut. And the guy was there, and he's a recruiter. I forget exactly all the branches and all the stuff that he does, but it's crazy how he was explaining to me how he recruits people.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and was like, I was so close to going to the reserves, and I didn't. I'm glad I didn't at the time, because if I'd have went in 2 months later, it was when 9/11 hit.
Oh, gotcha.
And they had told me that if you go in the reserves, you wouldn't have to go to war if there was war.
It's a lie.
That was about right. Because they came and got my homeboy out of Foot Locker.
Right.
Hey, Mr. Jones, come with us. They went and got my other homeboy, and they was gone. But when he explained it to me the way that he did and was talking about exactly what you said, like, people who don't necessarily have the financial part in place through their parents or
Right.
through themselves, he's like, yo, there's a way you can go through the military and you can be like straight, and then that can branch out to other things in the future. But anyway, the way he explained it to me, I'm like, yo, if you had been my recruiter, I would have got in.
But a funny story though, is like I did all of that with that mindset just to still end up being that broke college kid. And I'm gonna tell you why. No, not even that. It's one check a month, and it's like, I mean, you start out, the lower ranking, so it's like $300 a month. So you're trying to make $300 stretch for a month.
Listen, you eat Wendy's every day. That's gone.
Right. So at the time, I got a job working at Food Line part time. And the lady that was the manager, I told her, I was like, I get out of class at 1 every day. I said, you can work me every day.
Right.
For whatever reason, she still would only schedule me on weekends because I was in school. And I'm like, this isn't working for me. Like, I'm telling you.
Get the bread.
Right. When I get out of school, I will come straight here. I was like, I can work every single day.
Right.
And still, she was scheduling me on the weekend. So all that did for me was it never motivated me to go. So I ain't gonna lie, I called out a lot. Like it was a waste of my time. I'm pretty much, having to pay gas to come because I didn't have my car at the time. I had gotten into an accident.
Right.
Well, someone hit me my first day working at Food Line. While I was in the store, so they were like, hey, somebody just hit a black car out in the parking lot. Like, they call it over the speaker, and I'm like, all right, I got a black car. So I'm like, okay, so I go out there, and some dude had hit my whole front and tore it up and actually drove off. So afterwards, like, we noticed he had his card on the window or whatever, so I called him, but it was like, I should have called the cops. I tried to be nice and like work it out through him and his insurance company, but it just prolonged the process for so much. So I had went with like 3 months without my car. So I was having to pay people to take me to work. So at that point, paying people gas money to go to work for 10 hours a week, it just wasn't even worth it. So I would call out all the time.
That's crazy. So you already mentioned that high school graduated 4.0.
Right.
You already talked about how from there you went into the military, into the reserves.
Correct.
You were in for 6 years, just got out.
Right.
Explain to me and to the audience, like, through those experiences and others that we'll get into, like, who do you think you are?
I don't know. I think that's a hard question for me to answer right now, because I feel like I'm literally, as we're speaking, I feel like I'm literally in the middle of a journey. Like, I don't know, this year and last year, I guess you could say, especially this year, I feel like have inspired me to better myself or to really deeply find myself. So I don't know, it's just a hard answer. I'm a long way from where I was, because I mean, back then, 18 years old, I mean, I literally enlisted like the day after my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So, all right, I wasn't playing no games. Right. And funny story, my parents didn't even know. That's why I waited, because I didn't care about them signing out on no waiver. This is no exaggeration. I'm not proud of it, but I stole my homeboy's mom's car to go to the recruiting office because I didn't want to tell my parents to take me because I felt like they were going to try to say no, I don't want you to go or whatever the case may be. And then it's like, well, y'all don't have the financial means to send me, so this is what I got to do. And then at the same time, I just had the mentality like, I want to do it all on my own.
Right.
So what's it called? My homeboy's mom was super cool. Like, I stayed at her house all the time. So she was like, she knew how we were. She knew how we were. So she didn't even trip. She did her normal. She cussed us out and then go on about her day. Like, she was so forgiving. So I did do that. I took her car, went to the recruiting office, signed up, the whole nine. But back then, I was a very troubled youth. Like, I was smart. Like I said, I graduated with a 4.0, but I barely went to school. Like, I just would ditch all the time. But luckily, my grades were so good. I was that kid that was in so good with all the teachers. They all loved me and stuff like that. So that really helped a lot. And at a certain point, when you can miss as many days as I did and still be able to get the grades that I got, they don't care. They're like, at this point, they're like, well, dang, he could do this, then whatever. So I had a girl that I was in school with to literally tell me, like, you know, if you actually came to school, right, your grades would be even better. I'm like, well, if I can get a 4.0 and not come to school, why would I come to school?
Why I need a 4.6?
Right. So I did a lot of running around in the streets.
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Fayetteville. Yeah, I grew up in Fayetteville. So I had a lot of, I had criminal charges even when I was in. So this is after I got back from basic. That's actually when it started, because they sent me back home, which was a bad idea. So I'm in, now I'm free. I had all that money saved up from while I was gone. So it was a lot of drinking, partying, pills, honestly. So drugs, but not like heavy drugs, but a drug is a drug. So I was in a lot of trouble. I didn't really care about much, like whether I was coming or going. It was just like living every day, just trying to catch a high or, sleep with a woman. Well, I guess you could say a lot. 2010, I lost my aunt to suicide, and she was my rock. Like, me and my mom had a terrible relationship. I didn't have any grandparents. Like, my dad doesn't know either his parents. He grew up with his grandma. She passed away when he was like 12, so that shaped him because he had to figure out how to maintain himself at that age and still go to school and graduate and take care of himself. So, I know it hurt him, it hurt me growing up not having grandparents, because, most kids ready to go to grandma's house, right? And I never had that experience. But it shaped him and shaped me because he really showed me how to be a man. But like you said, I was running from stuff because I was running from different things, not ever feeling like that compassion from a woman is what I could say. So my aunt was that, but she was bad on drugs. So eventually it kept, bugging her to the point where she committed suicide in 2010. So that was a big, turning point in my life. It troubled me. Just financial situations, and then I guess the first exposure to a woman being compassionate about me and screwing it up so bad. Like my ex, I was so vulnerable to a female that I was cheating on her a lot, obviously. So that messed that up. So that was like the first heartbreak. And then, the first time you feel love from a woman and then get your heart broke all in the same sense, right? And it's like, I got my heart broke, but I was the one doing wrong, And I can acknowledge that now.
Right.
But back then, I couldn't comprehend it because all I could think about was the actual emotions that I was feeling. So
take me.
Dang, this fly, man.
Yeah, that fly. Listen, he tried to get the conversation.
Right. You could talk. Just wait your turn.
So how did you get from that to then marriage? Because that's the part that I think a lot of people in general, but guys especially, it's hard to go from having those types of emotions and feeling that heartbreak breaking their own heart or somebody else's heart, to then healing to the point where they say, you know what, I can be married, I can be faithful, I can be happy, and I can do these things and be these things for somebody else?
Well, I mean, it may sound cliche, but legitimately, my wife changed my life. So I told myself after my ex, because like I said, I went through a very deep depression with that, still kind of lingering from never healing from my aunt, just my childhood in a general sense. She wasn't my grandma, but the woman who I looked at like a grandma, she was a family friend, but she was elderly.
Right.
That's who I spent a lot of my childhood with versus my parents, because they were always working. And her whole goal in life, she told me, was literally to see me graduate high school, have kids, and get married. And she got to see none of them. She literally died like 3 months before graduation.
Wow.
So that was tough as well, because it was like I wanted her to actually live out her goals. So after my ex, I was like, I'm never going to ever get in another relationship. Like, that was not my thought. It was like I was so numb to feelings. Like, it was a lot of women that try to latch on to me. I'm talking about good women, to be honest with you. And it was like I couldn't even force myself to feel nothing.
Right.
And then eventually, one of my homeboys was actually messing around with my wife's friend. And we had all went to elementary school together, not me and my wife, but all of us that he was dealing with in the whole nine. And she was friends with my wife. And she was over the apartment one day and was like, hey, Taj is single or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. At this point in time, I'm still on my streak of like just wanting to sexually be with women, honestly. Right. So that was honest. That was the goal. Good. That was the goal. She knows that, and right. now and all, but transparently, that was the goal. It was like, I'm gonna hit her up. I'm gonna try to take her out, wine and dine, and try to, that suave charm. Like, right. I'm gonna try to get some. But I honestly, most people won't understand it until they physically encounter it. Like, I knew on our first date, like, that's what I wanted in life. Like, literally, and that was not my expectations.
So you went in like, I'm just gonna do my thing.
Right.
And then on the first date.
Literally, I just wrote a poem about it. I couldn't recite it if my life depended on it, because I literally just wrote it. But I literally just wrote a poem where actually it's the start of me and her relationship, and I'm going to work my way all the way to the end, to now. Right. So it's going to be the longest poem I ever wrote. And I'll talk about that early on. Like, literally, our first date, I was talking about having kids with her. So I can't make that up. Like, if I had to describe what I was feeling, I just don't know. It was so different for me to mentally be like, I want to, I don't know. I just stopped thinking about the whole idea where I said I was never going to be with another woman, like never be in another relationship. Right. That just, I don't know. It's just like I had tunnel vision at that moment. Like, I want to explore with her. And she was damaged at the time as well. Like, she had a bad relationship. So, statistically speaking, it should have never worked. Right. It should have never worked.
Yeah, because two damaged people, they're trying to heal. It's going to be a wrap.
It should have never worked. And shortly after us getting together, I ended up getting her pregnant. Like, I was stuck to my word. I was true to my word. At the moment, something we left out, we can get back to in a minute, I already had a kid.
Okay.
I had a kid, a son already or whatever, from like a fling, I guess you could say. There wasn't no relationship or no feelings
most kids
ever.
get here.
Right. It was
be
no
honest.
feelings involved. It was nothing. We just
Right.
kind of dealt around. I mean, obviously, you know, you mingling with somebody, some people can get emotions construed or whatever,
Yeah.
but it was never really anything. It was just late nights and ending up with a kid. But anyway, back to my point, within like 2 months, I had got her pregnant. Maybe
On
if on purpose, on purpose from the start. And
I'm squeezing.
she was so damaged and I was so damaged. It just seemed like a wise thing to do. Realistically, it made the relationship harder, if you want to be honest.
Oh, of course.
Because we don't even know each other.
Right.
And now we're trying to get to know each other and raise a child at the same time. So it really did more damage than anything. But at the same time, I don't know that we would still be together if we didn't have that, right? So it's one of those situations where you don't know if it was good or bad, but it worked out.
Yeah.
She helped me stop doing the pills. At one point in time when she was pregnant, it was like, if you keep drinking how you drinking and keep running the streets, then, you know, I'm gonna take this kid and leave. Because she, you know, she had that mentality where she wasn't gonna raise no kid in a bad environment. Right. And I mean, a week or two after we found out that she was pregnant, I got locked up. But I got out that night. But I caught some felony drug and gun charges with one of my homeboys. So at that moment, she was just like, you gotta change, you know, or whatever. At that moment, I'm still running. I knew that this girl was it for me, right. But at the same time, it was like, I'm still running. I can't just change overnight. And that ultimatum was the initial change in my life that I needed. After that, I started to develop into the man I am today. So I gotta give a lot of, you know, praise to her for that, because if not, I don't know where I would be at now.
I beg of you, run! I am not crazy. You thought it was okay not to pray for me? You sons of... The voices in my head speak, just not to me. I beg of you, run! Bolt while you say, hide in hell if you must. I hope they catch you today during one. I hope they bleed your brains into the mouths of your children. I am dying inside not to be the monster!
A lot of people think ultimatums are a bad thing.
Not always.
Right. But in this particular case, like, that was what you need to be like,
Yeah.
okay, because that's who I want, that's who I want to be with. I already done made sure she's pregnant.
Right.
I want to be in my child's life. Then that ultimatum is kind of what spurred that into the right direction.
It did. And you know, at the moment, obviously, I wasn't feeling it.
Right,
I wasn't
of course.
feeling it. Like, you telling me, oh, at first you think, oh, well, she basically telling me she want me to live a different life or be someone I'm not. But realistically, she was trying to help me grow into who I was meant to be or who she seen that I could be.
Right.
Because regardless of the damage, for her to entrust in me to get her pregnant, she obviously had to kind of see in me what I seen in her.
Right.
So she knew who I was capable of being, but I didn't, because I was too blinded by everything that I was running from and the life that I wanted to live and, you know, the fast life.
And how old were y'all then?
20 years old.
Early.
Right, yeah, 20. We were 20, we were 20 years old. And so after she got pregnant and after she gave me the ultimatum and I made that decision and commitment to change, we were probably 4 or 5 months in, and I proposed, right? And also just that showed me that was the beginning of me realizing that people will never do things in life they don't truly want to do. And I say that because I could have easily done that with my ex, and it might have been damage control. It might have kind of put patches on all the wounds I created for her and things like that. But obviously, I really just wasn't ready to do that, or with anybody I dealt with, I wasn't truly ready to commit. And it just kind of showed me, like, you really don't do things in life until you're really ready to do them. And it could have been a rash decision at the moment.
Did she say yeah the first time you asked?
Yeah, she did. She did. So, but our engagement ended up lasting like 3 years. Okay. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, about 3 years. And we even had a break in there. Right. And that break was...
How do those breaks work, bro?
So...
I've heard these break things, and I ain't never seen them turn out good.
She wasn't for it.
Right.
She wasn't for it at all. But it was because I didn't put it in the context of it was a break. I put it in the context... I was really... I told her we were done, right? Damn, this is fun.
What kind of fly is this?
I don't know. But he persistent.
Right. I think he went away from it.
But it must be the cologne. He's getting on my nerves. But and now it's bothering you. It's on your foot.
Oh yeah. As long as he stay down there.
Right. So you can play on my feet all you want.
Right.
But what were we saying?
You talking about the break?
Right. Okay. The break. So initially, I knew what I was risking, but she just took it as a breakup. So I split up with her in order to find myself. Because at that point, we 3 years in, we already had a kid, and we were engaged. And she had already made that transition in my life, but I still ended up getting back into a depression, and I still ended up back drinking, because you can run from your traumas, but if you never really deal with them, obviously you're never going to heal. So I still wasn't healed 3 years in, and it really just was always a back and forth, constant argument thing in our relationship. And really it was me, I was sabotaging it the whole time, because I wasn't fulfilled in life with myself. So I split up with her with the intentions of finding myself, and I knew what I was risking. So I was like, if it's meant to be, it'll come back together. But I really could have lost her.
Right.
You know,
like, that's tough, boy.
And honestly, sometimes that's just a chance you gotta take. But sometimes you can grow together. You can get over it together and things like that. But I just didn't feel. I felt like I was way too damaged, and I was just gonna keep dragging her down with me. And I had to find some type of healing and dealing with it myself.
It was codependent instead of co-healing.
Right. You know, and people, like you said, people can co-heal. And I applaud them, but I was more using her as a crutch. And that wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair to neither one of my kids. So I took that chance, and luckily it worked out.
How long was the break?
About 6-7 months. We were still sleeping with each other the whole time.
Of course.
So then we still had that intimate connection, or whatever the case may be. We dabbled with trying to talk to other people and move on, but sometimes what's meant to be just gonna be. And literally, I mean, after we were engaged for 3 years and would not get married. We were just engaged. Right. And literally maybe 2 months after getting back together, we got married. So the break ended up doing more good than harm. Right. Like I said, at the time, she didn't understand it. She looked at me like a bad guy, and maybe I didn't handle it the right way. But I just think about, now I can just think about the reward in it all. Like, right. We got married and we have a healthy marriage. And
how long y'all been married?
2 years.
2 years. So what's the hardest part now?
Parenting. I don't think it has nothing to do with us. Parenting. Like, we literally just had, I guess you could say, an argument or disagreement about a week ago. And we don't argue, realistically. Petty stuff where we joking around and stuff like that, obviously everybody's going to do that. But like legit problems and arguments, we don't have them. But we did have that because I guess we just don't agree with each other's parenting styles.
It's a big one.
And we both have flaws as parents. Right. A lot of people, they try too hard to perfect parenting, and you're never going to be the perfect parent. You don't want to be the perfect parent, in my opinion. But at the same time, you have to break certain cycles. And I think the cycle that I was more focused on was the financial cycle. So everything with me was trying to make sure that I was financially stable and set them up in the future. Like I'm talking about assets, properties, and things of that nature, and giving my all with working and grinding to try to provide for them and live this lifestyle that I could have never even imagined as a kid. But what I what I was blind to was the cycle I was still following, which was time away. So as growing up, I watched my parents always away working. So they were like, we didn't have that a lot of time together because they were always working, but they still had nothing financially to show for it. It was like they were working all the time just to, break even and scratch the surface to maintain. So I ended up falling into the cycle of time to try to break the cycle of financials. So, and it's something I acknowledge now, and it's like I got to figure out how to balance the two. So that kind of caused the issue because she feels like, I'm away a lot, and I'm kind of oblivious and blind to that because all I'm thinking about is what I'm providing financially, which obviously my kids appreciate, and they'll definitely appreciate as they get older and I set them up in life, but they also are going to appreciate the moments that we spend together. So by any means, I'm not a bad parent. I mean, I give them time, but could I be a little more present when I am present? Sure, because I'll break away and go spend hours in my office. Could I try to divide that? Could I spend this amount of time in my office and this amount of time doing this with them or whatever? Sometimes I feel like being around is just spending time, but that's not. Sometimes I need that one-on-one time. So that's just something that I gotta progress towards. Like,
how old are your kids?
one is she just turned 1. She'll turn 2 in February. I got one that just turned 7 last Friday, and then my middle one is 4. He turns 5 next year.
So you all at middle school, elementary school.
Right. So my oldest one is in 2nd. My youngest boy starts pre-K next week.
Okay.
And then I got a baby. So.
Gotcha. You want more?
No.
No, he said,
no.
I'm done.
Done.
Repeat, and it's a wrap.
She knows that. Done. I'm over it. I can't have no more. I'm good. I had enough.
What do you think? So I know you're talking about the balance, and it is hard for that balance, especially for somebody who is focused on financial part of life, super heavy. You always have that grind mentality that, I need to make this happen, Do you have, I guess my question is do you have a date or a time frame on how long I'm gonna go this hard, and then at a certain point, maybe that tapers off, and then as they get to a certain age, I can kind of.
And that's honestly, that was my thinking. That was really my thing was, they're not gonna notice right now. They're not gonna notice that I'm always gone. They're not gonna notice that I'm not here as often. But then when they get to a certain age, I'll be where I want to be, and then I can have that time. So I'm chasing the whole financial freedom thing. That way I can get my time back, because time is valuable to me. Time is more valuable than money to me. But I don't feel like I can have that time until I get 100% where I want to be financially. So my whole ordeal was like the age of 30. Like by the time I'm 30, I want to be so financially set that I can do everything I need to do and travel with them. But I kind of overlooked the idea that young kids are very impressionable.
Very impressionable.
So if I'm not giving them what they need now, will they go out in the world and be, very impressionable and not be on the right track as early as they need to be when it comes to morals and, ethics and the whole nine.
Right.
So especially because I got boys.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't.
2 boys and a girl, right?
Right, 2 boys and it doesn't make it no better that they're they have our skin color.
Right.
So I definitely have to get them on the right track as far as how to prepare themselves for this world, even at a young age. And one thing that my mother-in-law taught me, or talked to me about, is that you could teach them now about the financial situations, and that'll also help them, because I'm more focused on making sure they're financially set up, but I can do that and balance it with also giving them the tools they need to be financially set up.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just sometimes I think I hold so much of a grudge of not being in the financial situation I wanted to be, and that I overlooked the fact that my parents probably did the best they could do. Like,
Right.
I mean, they gave it a lot of time, and they didn't realize that. I mean, they were just living in a cycle.
Yep.
So I got to be the one to break that cycle. So that's a big focus on my life right now, is trying to find that balance to be what I need to be as far as a parent.
What are your conversations like, especially with your oldest? Because your oldest is 7, right?
Correct.
What are your conversations like with your oldest about what you're doing to set up the family?
I probably don't have them enough.
Have them, bro.
Yeah.
So I got one son. He's 17 now.
Right.
I had my son when I was 20, the day before I turned 21, actually. And so one of the things I always did when he was like mad young, I'm talking about like 5 years old. Once I realized like, okay, we can have an intelligent conversation, that's when I was into it. I hate the baby stage.
Right.
But when I could sit down and have a conversation, like I would have those conversations about, yo, this is why I'm not here. It even got to a point, as it started getting like around 6 or 7, because I'd be gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. I realized that he wasn't liking that I was gone for a certain amount of time, right? And so, oh, Daddy, I'm gonna miss you, and I would always be like, look, I'm gonna be gone for 30 days. But you can't tell, I mean, not even just a kid, but anybody, yo, you counting the days down.
Right.
So that makes it even worse. So like I literally asked him, like, would it be better for you if I tell you how long I'm be gone, or if I just let you know, hey, it's gonna be a little bit longer than normal? And he was like, yeah, I don't want to know how many days. So little stuff like that was able to help, so he wasn't sitting there just like, all right, 26 more days left, you know what I mean? And then having those conversations about like, yo, look, like this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing. Like literally, like talking to him like a straight up adult, I think would really help. And I think your wife, if y'all are doing that together as a family unit, sitting down and saying, look, so this is how much money we make. This is, you may not want to go, but this is how much money we make. This is what we're trying to get to. Right. This is the time frame we're trying to do it in, and this is what you can do to help the family unit too.
And make them feel involved, right?
Then I think then what that does is, even when you're away, well, I know because I've been through this. Even when you're away, that allows your son to be like, I'm doing my job while Dad gone, though. Right. And then when Dad's back, then that's your time. You gotta make sure you're present. You know what I'm saying? In those situations where you can be and should be, then your wife can feel more like, okay, our son's included. Right. I'm included. We all a unit. Everybody's on the same page and understanding what's going on. And then you just gotta make sure you hit your deadline.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's it. Like I said, that's a big focus now. Like I just want to make sure that I'm the best parent I could be, because. Thinking how I was thinking, I thought I was being the best parent I could be, and I guess, obviously I overlooked that time thing. Because I really do think, like my youngest son, I think he definitely felt it. Because before I went overseas, he was like my best friend. Like that's how I really looked at him. Like we did everything together. I was taking him. Initially, he was a mama's boy, but at that time, he was really like getting away from that, and he was really starting to be daddy's boy. And then it's like I up and left him for a long time. And when I came back, I mean, if I was about to walk out the door, it was like he kind of worried, like, is daddy coming back type of deal. And even now, I mean, I work a lot and grind a lot, so he kind of like, as soon as I come home, but Daddy, I missed you, blah blah blah, and I feel a lot of ways about it all the time. So it really bothers me. And it even before me and her even had the conversation, it was already kind of one of those things that's bothering me. And it's like, but what it do is it make you really want to speed up the process.
Right.
And so
Which is
I don't know
hard
if
to
that's
do
a
too.
positive or a
Right.
negative thing, because it's like if well, now I'm really gonna hit the ground and I might be away a little more, but then at the same time you might get where you're trying to go quicker and be where you want to be to hit those deadlines, but hit them way before the deadlines.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know, man. It make you appreciate your parents so much more, because you realize what they had to go through, right? So they had to, and even then you be like, all right, so maybe not all parents gave it their all. Like you can kind of sense that, because you can realize how much you're giving to it, and you're like, were they giving? Were they really giving it to you like that?
Right.
So I don't know. Like my dad was my best friend, so I try to. Well, I'm trying to get back to it, because I used to really be like that, but I try to say include my family. Like if I'm going to travel to do a show, like all right, y'all can go. But a lot of the issues really are, a lot of poetry scenes are in like alcoholic, establishments.
Yeah, can't bring kids in.
Right.
It's not the right atmosphere too, even if they allow.
So that creates some issue. Like I can't. So when I do have the opportunity, I'll try to bring them, and I'm trying to implement that back in, and I'm trying to get back heavy into the schools as far as doing rallies and things at schools like that, because obviously I can bring them there. It's a school environment. Right. But that's really where sometimes the balance is with that. It's like I literally can't bring you even if I want to. Right. Or I'll even say, like I did offer even today for them to come, like, hey, because the Marble Museum is right there. So I'm like, y'all could come and y'all could just, you could take the kids there while I'm doing this, and then I'll come over there when I'm done. But she has stuff to do, so that didn't pan out. But I'm really just trying to find that balance of how I can include them in everything I do as far as travel and things like that. Right. But it's a thin line.
Yeah. Is poetry your main thing?
It's not my main source of income, no. But it's strongly a strong supplement. So
what other things do you do for income?
I'm a store manager at Lowe's.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's another goal I'm trying to get away from. I've only been with them for a year. Okay. I got promoted very quickly, straight out of the military. Right. So Lowe's is a very good cleaning company. Right. So I make great money with them, but obviously working for anybody, because even though I'm the manager of the store and I run my box, I still work for somebody. I manage like a $55 million store a year, right? So it was like I'm making $55 million for somebody else. That would never sit right with me.
That's why I always say, y'all could never work at a bank. And I'm counting other people's money all day long. I'm like, what?
But at the end of the day, to me, that's some great success at 25. To be able to say I'm a salary manager at 25, I have the supplemental income of poetry. I'm recently getting into hosting events and things of that nature. So to say I'm doing all of that, and I actually touched my first 6-figure year this year. Right. At 25, that's a milestone. But that's not my plan. So I'm kind of right now I'm in the midst of a 2-year plan. Okay. To where I want residents to be my primary source of income. Gotcha. I guess maybe selling myself short, but to say poetry will ever be my main source of income is kind of one of those things. Is like that's a stretch goal, because there's money in it, but I can't say that it's the greatest money in it, Right. So that's a stretch goal. Obviously, you got to do a lot of things to make money in the poetry career. Like you got to have merch. Like I got my own merch on right now. Right. You got to write books. You got to do the whole 9 as far as doing the shows and being willing to travel, being flexible. So
if you ain't doing that, you ain't doing that.
You're right. That's how you do it. You got to go to the show, get paid for the show, which is whatever, a couple $100, But then a lot of the money you're gonna get is from being able to sell that merch and sell those books at the show, and you might have a very good night. Because I mean, you can have a great night, you know.
Sell your merch, you get 2-3 bands.
Right, you had a great night.
Right.
So,
but then you gotta stay on the road.
Right.
It's like a
and you gotta get that.
Artist, they gotta get on the road and get that show money.
And you gotta be consistent and have those connects, and those connects take time to build. So, most of the successful poets I know are above 30. Like, there's nobody really under 30 because they took all these years to build those platforms, to build those relationships, to build those connections. One of my biggest mentors that I reach out to all the time is Just Mike.
Yeah.
You know who that is, right?
Yeah, you just said I was at a show.
Yeah, so that's one of my biggest, mentors that I reach out to, like, for advice on, hey, I'm about to do this. How should I do this, or whatever the case may be. And he's pretty responsive for the most part. Yeah. Obviously, he has a lot going on within himself, so he can't always, be right a call away or whatever. And obviously, we're not like friends. We just have a kind of, I guess you could say, business relationship. Right. So he's not always obligated to respond. Right. So I take a lot of advice from him, and I just study. Like, I study people to see, like, believe it or not, I study you. So, I mean, I look at you as a predominant person in the Raleigh area. Like, so I study people like you, LJ, him, just the whole nine. I really look at different people to see, like, what could bring success, and I try to bring it all together. And I try to always pass that free game down, especially to a lot of people in my organization. Like, all my writers, I give them, I might have started here, and I try to make sure they can start here. So I think that's the biggest part of being a CEO is like, or owner, is like making sure that you putting people in positions to win, and kind of they don't have to make the same mistakes you made. So.
Yeah, because they start in the same place you started.
Then I'm not doing a good job, right? I'm not doing a good job.
And then they're like, what I need you for if I'm starting the same place?
And one of my writers, you probably know him, Nick Corman, NBC Poetry.
Yeah, we set out already a couple weeks ago.
So that's one of my writers. But it's almost, I tell him, it's like, I feel like a Hove and J. Cole relationship where I feel like the student surpassed the teacher, because I lie to you not. That dude, he like that. He monster. I mean, and he already had your talent. So it was almost like, it was too easy. Like, anytime I try to, if I get booked for an event, it's immediately followed by, hey, I got 2 writers or whatever that are really dope. And his resume always makes it easy. I'm like, yo, this dude was featured in LA Times. He got a little contract with Beats and the whole nine. He was mentioned on Lizzo's story.
Definitely.
Right, you get what I'm saying? So that to them, they're like, oh, okay, that's gonna help my event. So him, that's easy, Right. And honestly, he get me he get me as much events as I get him, right? So, but more so when it comes to, I guess you could say, managing him is more so of the logistics and the technical things as far as, the books and how to get published and what to do here and what to do there. And then my other writer, he's like the PR as well. So he already has that experience. And so honestly, I created the organization, right? I'm the owner. It's an LLC. So everything I did, but I never look at them as underneath me. I feel like I created everything, but I just feel like we a team where we all on a level playing field, and we all just feed into each other, and we constantly, hey, this event is happening, you want to do it? And then one of them might have had a negative experience at it, and they're like, this is what happened, boom, boom, boom. So we all kind of make that mutual agreement, like, all right, we're not going to do it. And we kind of got to the point where lots of the times, if at least 2 of us can't do the event, we might not do it or whatever. So we just kind of built that bond. And when it comes to personalities and how we live our lives, we're all like totally different people. But when we're together, like, it's just like an instant connection. Like, we have the best times.
That's how it should be, man. Once you have alliances that are form, me and Crystal, obviously,
Right.
are pretty heavy, and so it's the same kind of thing. Like I form, it's my brainchild, but then so much is spurred off from that. You know what I mean? So whenever she got something going on,
Right.
I'm there. I'm filming. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I don't need nothing. We good because she done poured so much into me, and so when you pour into each other like that, then everybody stay full.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes it could be like, for instance, it's a show upcoming in Charlotte this weekend. I got booked first, so I got put as the feature, so I'm gonna make a check. But I asked could they, come and perform, and she was like, well, I don't have any more paid feature. They can get in free and get all the perks, but it's not paid. But they can come perform, and then I'll have a feature for them in the future. So we all kind of got that understanding. Sometimes we'll make those sacrifices, like, okay, I'll come and do this for free because I know it's a future, payment in or whatever the case may be. And then when they go get paid, I might go and just perform. So we all together. And
Don Cheadle was just talking about that. He sat down with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart has like a podcast or whatever, and he was talking about how when he was in theater, it was him and I think 2 or 3 of his other friends, and they went to every audition together. And people was like, yo, well, it's only one of y'all gonna get it. Like, well, if they get it, then that's their part.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we gonna show up. Or if only one of us has an audition, the other ones are still coming.
Right.
So it's the same kind of brotherhood, so to speak.
So I started this in 2015, like poetry in general. And then my first organization, which back then was called Poetic Voices. I feel like if I met them then, like now, I feel like where we would be like bizarre. So I can only imagine the possibilities. So I think of that whole timeline where, I say I see most people over 30 is that's how long it takes when they're in the poetry game before they really flourish. So now with them around, I feel like by the time we get to that age, it's gonna be crazy. I feel like then that stretch goal where I say like sometimes thinking poetry is gonna be your main goal is a stretch. Honestly, I think by then it's the possibility is there. Like it's definitely there because it just the chemistry we have, and we all bring a different type of poetry to the table. We do talk about some of the same subjects, but we all got different flow, all different delivery. I typically talk about the Suave stuff of things like, love, sex, toxic stuff, just the whole nine. Then Nick naturally is always more into the empowerment and stuff like that. And Jeremiah, he really brings a combination. Like he's kind of.
See, that's the one I don't know.
Yeah, so I think he's performed at City Soul, but I don't think we all ever been there together before. I don't know how long ago he was there. I think it was before y'all even moved to the new location. But yeah, so hopefully we all can get out there, but we just all got different schedules and conflictions, so that happens. But I feel like we're picking up a lot of steam now, because used to it was a lot of time spent in looking for what the next gig is and actually reaching out. And now it's almost like we don't really have to do that. It's like I might get an email or a text, oh, hey, this is happening, you want to do it, blah, blah, blah. Or one of them might have it, so it's kind of all flowing for us so naturally that it's starting to pick up that esteem, especially that COVID is over. So
Is it?
Well, it was.
It was.
It was. So now
back.
I'm concerned, like, what would that do? So what we did during the time.
I was just about to ask you, what y'all do during COVID?
During COVID is when we actually linked up. And it's a crazy story. So I want to say March of 2020, that's when COVID really hit hard. I got home from overseas in February.
Okay.
I think April of last year, May at the latest, is when I rebranded. It was like, I'm done with Poetic Voices. I'm gonna put that to rest. I had never officially LLC'd it or anything, so that was easy. And I changed to Lost Voices. And I got a new logo, rebranded it, actually LLC'd it, the whole nine. Like, it was, to me, 100% me. Everything was done properly. It was legit. The whole nine. It was like a fresh start. I'm like, all right, between 2015 and 2020, I made all these mistakes. I might have burned bridges because I wasn't perfect. I learned a lot. So now I got to take all of this I learned in this 5 years. I'm willing to start from scratch and I can take all that knowledge and see where it takes me. So I think I made a flyer about the new organization, what I was offering, and the whole nine. And I got a lot of response. And I think I ended up initially signing 7 to 8 people off the top.
Okay.
I mean, these were all people that they had latched on off the muscle. Like they didn't really know me. We were all like strangers in a sense. So I kind of, from experience of the 5 years, I did like a probationary period. They didn't really know it, they were in it, but I did it because I was gonna give so much free game that I had to do that. Like, so eventually, like in the first month or so, 2 people dropped off.
Okay.
So it was 5. So I'm like, all right, boom. So these 5 people really trying to, make it legit. So there was no fees, no charges, no nothing. All this was free. I ended up publishing all 5 of them to Barnes & Noble, right? There wasn't a single one of them that didn't reach the top 15 new releases for poetry. And then actually Nick, Jeremiah, and this girl Simone, they all actually were #1. Nick was #1 for a while. So if you go in on the poetry page of Barnes & Noble, you seen his book right there for, like a whole month. He locked that spot in. So that's what we did during the pandemic. It was publishing books and just putting those out. And I was putting out a lot of merch. I'm not a fan of doing virtual events, so I didn't do any. They did a little bit of them. That was free game. That free reign. They can do whatever, but I just not my thing. So that was really it. Just pushing books, writing and publishing books is what we did throughout COVID. And then when we got out of it, we kind of slowly worked our way into the shows. And then I got to a point where the way I had set up the contracts was I would publish their book, and each month when they got royalties, I would distribute them some, and then I would keep a little bit of the royalties. But Barnes & Noble already takes some of the royalties. So at a point, I got to the point where I almost felt like I was shortchanging them. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but just me, the person I am, it's like, dang, Barnes & Noble already killing y'all. Now I'm killing y'all. Y'all stay with me for this long throughout the pandemic. I'm going to give all y'all a whole tutorial. So I took like hours out of my day to make a tutorial on how they could do it themselves. Sent it out, took all their books down off my account and let them all create their own and do their own thing. At that time, the females, I had 3 females still, all of them kind of decided to like branch off and go their own way, which was fine or whatever. No, it was no like bad feelings or anything. Just one was pregnant. She was dealing with her own thing, so she just kind of stepped away. One took the year contract she had and got what she could get out of it, and was like she was gonna go do her own thing because poetry wasn't really gonna be her main focus. She was still gonna do it, but she wanted to do it at free will. And then the other one she was just having her own life issues or whatever the case may be. So like I said, it was no love lost. They could hit me up today, and I still, give them free game. But Nick and Jeremiah stayed around, and we just kind of started working together, and the momentum started building. And that's just kind of how we got to where we are.
What opportunities are you looking to come your way through writing? Because we know poetry is one, but then there's other things.
You saw them as far as writing. So I'm big into mentoring. That's actually how I started writing. I never really wrote for like slamming or public speaking or anything. Poetry performances. I started writing as a thing to mentor kids because I knew how messed up I was, and I figured if I could share some of my experiences and be real vulnerable and raw with people, especially in high school, because that's what I started doing, was performing at a lot of high schools. I felt that I could help them out, so that's where I started, and then I kind of got to where I'm at now. But now I'm looking to kind of branch out and do them both, like go perform at the bar and do this, but then at the same time, the next week I'm going to perform at a college or a high school or whatever and share that knowledge. So that's when I kind of step away from the love and Suave side and just kind of step into real and, you know, be real raw and put those poems out that I got about drug addiction, alcohol, and the whole nine, and, you know, just how to grow up. So that's one of the things. And then I eventually really want to put out a straight through book, like not a poetry book. I'm talking about like an actual novel.
Right.
Sit down and write it and put that out. That's really one of my biggest goals. And I actually had started the book when I was overseas, and I got through a lot of it. It was difficult though, because it's like you reliving those moments. So what I was writing about was literally about my life. The book was called What I've Lost.
Okay.
And it was saying everything I lost that molded me into who I am.
Right.
So it was real in detail. And I wrote a lot of it, and somehow I lost it all. Like it all
The
deleted.
manuscript?
Yeah, it all deleted itself. And I did everything. You heard for me? I did everything I could do to recover it, and I couldn't get it back. And at that moment, like, I was so hurt. Like, I was like, I can't do it again right now. Because then I could do it because it was, I didn't have the opportunity to drink or anything overseas and deal with alcohol. So when I did it, I had to deal with those moments thoroughly and genuinely. Versus now I'm home, if I do it, I can't guarantee that I won't.
Easily accessible.
Right, it's easily accessible. So if I'm dealing with it and I'm feeling some type of way, I can just go grab a drink. Versus social drinking, now I'm drinking for problems.
So what do you do to put yourself in a position to be able to sit down and deal with that again and go through and write it?
Finish this journey I'm on. I think over maybe the last few months, just 2021 in general, I've really been on like a, I guess you could say, spiritual journey to really be at peace. I don't drink like that no more. Like, this is the first time in my life I can say that. Like, honestly, this right here is a first. This is this is the first like sit down conversation I've had since 2019. I did a podcast interview in New York, and then once that tour was over, I kind of got prepared to go overseas. And then when I came back, obviously we had COVID, and then just this year I had opportunities, I just didn't take them until I felt like I was ready to actually sit down and have some real authentic conversations.
Right.
Hence not drink or be intoxicated to feel like I could come in here and talk to you authentically, you know, but I would be under influence.
Right.
So this is the first time I've ever done this, like actually sit down and just really talk. So this is a point in my life where I don't drink like that anymore. I've been past the whole pills and drugs and all of that, like 2016, but alcohol has always lingered on. So now it's like I probably drink twice a month, and that's just like social drinking. Like, it's typically when I got this event in Greensboro that I'm the house host for, and I do that twice a month. That's typically when I do have a drink. It's because they got a bar there, and it just feel good to host and be loose or whatever and joking and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't even drink no more.
Gotcha.
I this weekend, me and my wife were in Charlotte, so we obviously social drink or whatever. But for the most part, I could care less to have alcohol. So
Yeah, I don't drink, so I understand.
so I think when I'm way past the point I am now, to where this is the norm, because this is probably the last, I guess you could say, 2-3 months that I finally got to this point. So I feel like when I know for a fact this is consistent, and I could do it off the muscle, off of just, I'm real into back into my fitness life, working out, meditating, sage, all of that, you know. So I feel like I'm getting to that point where I could go and write the book and wouldn't feel nothing about it. It still could be authentic and give every detail.
This time save it on 3 different hard drives.
Right. So I didn't have many resources over there, so I was using what I had. I was literally doing it off an iPad that I bought over there. So I bought an iPad, I bought a keyboard from the PX, and that's how I was writing it. So it was already a little difficult doing it on the iPad, and I lost it all. But now I'm home. In my office, I literally have 3 computers. Okay. So it would be like I'm smarter than that now.
Right.
Like the book I had just released that I actually took off on Barnes and Noble because we got some issues pretty much. Well, they got some issues, and I'm not one to let any company or corporate company bullshit me.
Right.
But when I would do something on it, when I would type up a poem or edit something or whatever, I would save it and I would send it to 3 different emails of mine.
Yeah.
So that way, like if
Always
I
got
lost
that,
it,
right.
it's in somebody's email. Like I got it, so I'm good.
Right.
So that's what I do now, and that's what I'll do when I eventually get back around to doing that. Cause when I say this, I don't say this as like just a thought. I say this because I genuinely, in my heart, mind, and spirit, feel this. Like it's almost like I know this. When I actually do release this book, I know where it's gonna go. Like I know it's gonna be one of them books that you go in Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, any bookstore, and you having trouble finding it on the shelf. Like I know that's where this is gonna go because it's that raw. And if someone could read my life in a book, I just feel like they would have so much more respect for me, and 2, they would just be like amazed and motivated. I feel like it'd be one of the biggest motivational books ever. Like I genuinely feel that. So
What's one thing that was in the book that you feel like people would most gravitate towards too?
Let me think. You could honestly, I could start off in the very beginning, like I'm talking about the interlude or whatever you want to call it, the very introduction to the book is how I talk about when my mom was pregnant with me. I ain't never really said this like to where people could view it, and I know she won't take it personal because she know I talk about my truth or whatever.
Right.
But my mom didn't want to have me, right? She had my sister, and that was supposed to be it for her. And she got pregnant with me by my dad, and she really didn't want to have me. And it was almost kind of forced on her by my dad and my uncle. Like it was like they wouldn't allow her to have an abortion or anything like that. So she just continued to do the things she was doing as far as drinking and living her life.
Right.
So what that ended up doing is she had me at like 5-6 months, and she was bleeding so bad. Yeah, I swallowed her what's that thing, the placenta. I swallowed that, and so I was actually born dead. So they had to, it took a long time. They had to try to revive me and stuff like that. And I spent some time in the NICU, and that's just how I started off. Cause it's like I ain't even supposed to be here.
Right.
Like I literally could go out here, and if I told somebody this, they probably would look at me like I'm crazy. But it's the legit truth. I already seen death. Like I was already there. So, I don't know, that's just one of those things. It's like, anything is possible to know that I was born like that and then to see where I'm at today and to see that, even though that's not something I necessarily, I can say that I was strong enough, obviously, to overcome that. Like, as a baby, I was already showing strength from day one because I was born dead. And even though the doctors did their job, I had to have some type of fight to overcome that. So, that's just... that's a starter. Like to open up a book, and that's where you start at reading it. I feel like that's definitely a hook. Like you gonna be interested. Like, wow, that's crazy. And I know I'm not the only person in the world that was like
Right,
that,
but
but
people don't know anybody like
right.
that. How old were you when you found out about all of this?
How old was I when I remember learning about it? I was young. My mama was very open with telling me about it or whatever, and just explaining the whole story. But I honestly was in the last 2 years when I learned more details about it, when I actually was like, hey, Mom, I want to sit down and I want to talk about this, because I was trying to write the book. So I wanted to know how long I spent in the NICU, what exactly happened, the whole nine. Like, I wanted to know the details, and I let her know, like, this is going to be in the book. She just knows how passionate I am about what I'm doing, and nothing comes with, ill intent. So she, shared the whole story with me.
Are you and your mom tight now? 'Cause I know you said when you were younger, you and your parents.
We still building.
Yeah.
We still building. A lot closer than like when, before. Oh snap, my bad,
Oh,
man.
you good? What time you got anyway?
It's 4:30.
All right, we good.
But yeah, so I just started realizing about the age of 20, about the time with my wife, that I really needed to sit down and try to build that relationship with my mom, because that's a part of healing.
Yeah.
Like, to continue to hold that grudge when realistically she never thought she was doing anything wrong or whatever. She didn't see. I mean, now she'll openly admit, like, okay, I know that this hurt you. Like, I didn't think about it back then, because in her older age, she's coming to realization with a lot of things she did or like how she acted. So that helps us build. But obviously, just like time with my kids, sometimes it's not that time there. So sometimes if she called me, that's just a good enough feeling for me, like to sit there and have a 10-minute conversation. And something that, years ago I wouldn't have cared if she ever called me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's also helped me, to a stage where I'm at.
What about your dad?
Oh, me and my dad always been tight.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a junior, and my dad kind of showed me what I gotta do now, or what I've been trying to do as far as taking my kids with me to do the things I'm doing, because my dad owns his own towing and recovery business, and a lot of the times if like I couldn't go to the lady I said was like my grandma,
Right.
he had to take me with him. I'm talking about he'd be on the side of the road trying to strap up a car on the highway, and he holding my hand with his left hand trying to get the car on with his right hand. So like we had that bond, a lot. And still, today, once again, that time thing, sometimes I'm not even thinking about calling somebody or whatever. But when I do call them, it's like we sit there and talk for hours.
Right.
So I still, I look at him as one of the most influential people in my life. Like, he's still a role model to this day.
Right. Did your bond with your dad, being that it's always been like that, did that make you want to have kids?
Yeah, my goal was to be half the man my dad is. Like, literally. Like, that's how I view him. I view him as, like, he's a good dude. Like, honestly, I had to overcome a lot as far as, I guess you could say mental illnesses and depression and all of that. So that created a lot of issues in my life for myself, like stepping on my own toes. But just the things he implemented in me and showed me really allowed me to be where I'm at 25. Like, most people still aren't here at 25. Some people is 28, 29, 30. Some people never. Right. Some people never grow up, realistically. And I feel like if it wasn't for the things he put in me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Because a lot of people, being a manager of a store in this day and age, I see people my age and they not there. They don't care about coming to work, calling out, and they, just taking the job, being lazy. I see how, it's a lot of lazy people in the world.
Especially people who have something else that's over here that they would rather be doing.
Right. So
And
some people
I think a lot of people miss that. Like, even if you don't want to be there and you got another life goal, like, that's gonna help literally feed your goals.
It's a stepping stone.
Right, but I know a ton of people, bro. Hell, I was one of those people for a while when I was working in my early 20s, that didn't necessarily look at it that way, and so they do call out. They are lazy. They like, oh, you really can't tell. They half-ass stuff.
I don't care about this job.
Right.
You're right. What's it called? I'm a store manager, and if I had to be authentic, I don't really care about the job.
Right.
Because it's not my aspiration in life at all, and I've already got a taste of what I can do and what I could be doing or whatever the case may be. So sometimes I'm there and I got other stuff on my mind, but at the same time I know, like, I got to come in here and I got to give it my all every day. Like, I got to, make sure I'm producing and being productive while I'm here.
Yeah.
And as soon as I clock out, I can go and do what I need to do.
And I can go do whatever.
Right, or even when I'm there, I might have a quick thought or something, and I can stop for a second, put it in my phone, get right back to what I'm doing. But there's a balance, but you got to understand at the end of the day, you need something to financially pave your dreams.
Yeah.
Your dreams, you can't pave them off of air. Because, starting off early, I was paying to do shows or paying to travel to go perform for free. So without that money, you can't do these things, especially when you got kids. You got to have money to go in those kids and money to do this. Just in 2018, I could be straight transparent. it was days I was so broke. I'm like, yo, what I'm gonna do? Like, I mean,
Been there, bro.
right? So you like, whoa, man, what's next? What's next? And it's like, I knew back then though, I needed to stay on the path I was on because it was always like, right when you think something's gonna fall through the crack, like I got this bill to pay, I'm dead broke. I gotta make sure I got something to eat on the table for me and my family. At this time, I only had one kid. Well, I had 2 kids, but only one stayed in my household. The oldest one stays with his mom. But I still had to kick her money out or whatever. So that was the focus. And I might have a bill coming up, and they'd be like, "Yo, I don't know how I'm gonna pay this." And next thing I know, is like, I sell a lot of books at a show, and it's like,
Right.
like I
Next.
barely made it. You get what I'm saying? And then I was dibbling and dabbling and trying to do graphic design, and so I might get $50 here or $50 there, and that'll pay some of your bills, water bill, Wi-Fi, or whatever. So those would all. It was like everything always came exactly at the right time, and at that point, it was like it's gonna work out for you. Cause I mean,
Right.
if it keeps coming like this, it's a reminder to keep letting you know like you're doing the right thing by staying into this art stuff.
I saw you said money didn't change me, it changed my situation.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think money changes some people versus just their situations?
They get too caught up in it, and it becomes more of their identity. Like they think, oh, I got all of this, I got all of that. This is who I am, and then it just kind of it has an effect where they really start to, I don't know, just they get too consumed in it. Just like it's like a drug.
Yeah.
You get consumed in it sometimes, and it becomes an addiction. Like, and I can't say it's not moments where obviously everybody gets consumed in money because they gotta keep trying to level up. But to me, I'm more happy with my situation. Like I bought my first house this year,
Right.
and it's a very nice home, or whatever. So sometimes I be in my house and I'm looking at something in my house. It could be the simplest thing. I'm looking at my living room, and I just sit back and I start smiling, and it's like, yo, like I came from this, and this is how I'm living now, and it's like, yo, it makes you so happy, so proud, and it's like. My first car, for instance, was a 1998 Mercedes-Benz, right? I paid $750 for it at a junk auction. Like, it was wrecked. Right. My dad helped me put a bumper on it or whatever. It was, old, raggedy, whatever. It was 1998, and I bought it in, I think, like 2013, right? Okay. 750 wrecked, right? And back then, I thought I was doing something still because I'm driving a Mercedes, right? Whatever. But now I have a Mercedes truck that came off the lot,
Right.
And it's like, just think of the difference. It's like, I really did this. Like I always been a fan of Mercedes. Yeah. Back then I bought a $750 piece of junk because I wanted it so bad, and it's like now I was actually able to put myself in a situation where I could really get what I wanted. And sometimes I just think about the life I created for myself and my family versus how I lived growing up, and it's the money part just kind of flies out my head, and it's just like what I got, to me, assets or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, it didn't, like I said, I don't feel like it changed me. It really changed my situation and put me in such a better place in life.
Right.
So
because you've been through the life experiences that you've been through, I know you said that like you've taught with kids and you want to do more of that, going to high schools and colleges and stuff. When you have talked with them, how receptive are they to you?
To me, that's what motivated me to do it, is because they were way more receptive than, say you got this guy that's 40, 50 up there in a suit and tie, they feel like he's talking at them. I went up there and like when I started, I think I was like 19, 20 doing it, and like I'm not much older than you, right. And I'm already telling you about these life experiences and what you can do. And I felt like they felt like I was with them. So, right. I mean, all the time, even to this day, I have people hit me up on Instagram or my DM or whatever, talking about an experience they had with me coming to their school and how it may have shaped something in their life. Like, I know one that really stands out to me was I was going to go do a show at the high school I actually graduated from. And at the time, they were rehearsing for, I I don't know, they were rehearsing for like a Black History Month show. That's what I was actually performing at. And one of the like lead people, cause they knew like what her potential was shy. So even at practice, she would be so nervous and scared up there. Right. And I really didn't know her nothing. I pulled her to the side and I had a motivational conversation with her about, you know, her potential and the talent she possesses in the whole nine. And I let her know, like, these people in the audience, they're another you. Like, they people just like you are. Like, if you mess up, they don't know you messed up. You know, just wing it. Like, know how to, you know, wing on the fly. Figure out the points in the audience to look at where it don't look like you're looking at them until you get comfortable. And I just gave her different feedback. And then she, like, months later, she found me on Instagram and DM'd me and was like, I just want you to know, like, you really changed my perspective of my life. And now I'm, and I think that she got in Deca Club, which is where they actually go speak all the time and things like that. And she was, you know, she told me I helped her get there. So just to know that I made those impacts, lots of the times is bigger than any financial goal.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
Oh, I apologize, I'm trying to see. Oh, no, it's spam.
Yeah, that's dope because there are some people who they try to reach through or break through and they can't.
Right.
And then there's others that people, kids especially, really gravitate towards, and it can make the biggest difference because instead of them going from 16 to the 36 and realizing some stuff, they realize it at 16 and they can make whatever transition they need to.
So that, I mean, I feel like when I leave this earth, I feel like what I want to leave behind, obviously for my kids, is assets and things of that nature to where they're set. But as far as like the world, I want somebody that had taken something out of what I gave to them. Like, that's it. Like, I want somebody to have a life lesson that I taught them that really goes with them in life. And to me, that's, I don't know, that's just my motivation, my goal, like, to have someone, you know, be that way.
Legacy, man.
Yeah,
Legacy.
definitely.
That's, at the end of the day, if either you're going to leave one or you're not.
Yeah. Because if I die, the money stuff and all of that, I can't take it with me. Now, like you said, your legacy, you will be remembered for that forever, you know? So.
Yeah, I know I've been, like, I understand I've understood being broke.
Right.
I've understand having a little bit of money too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, like you said, at a certain point, man, it's more about those impacts, about the people that are around you, the people that you can touch, and the things that you can do with money versus it just being about having the money.
I always tell everybody, when they ask me when I do get to where I think I want to go financially, what am I going to do with it? And I would tell you, like I tell everybody in life, my goal is to be so financially stable for the benefit of others, never for myself. Yep. Like, I don't care about what I can go buy. I want to know what I can do for this person or how I can give back to, like, the homeless, the community, or things like that, kids in need, and things like that. I want to be financially stable to where I can, you know, distribute that to other people, to put other people in better situations, family, the whole nine. So that's really my goal in life. My goal is never, for me, it's like I always tell my wife, like, I feel like I'm the sacrificial lamb. Like, I feel like where I come from, I'm breaking so many generational curses, so many cycles, and I want to give it my all, so that way my kids start off a new cycle. I might not end the cycle. I mean, I want to be the one that ends the cycle, and they can start a brand new cycle, and, you know, keep that going in life. That's what I want to be.
Instead of starting here. Starting here.
Correct. That's what I want to do. That's my whole goal.
Bet. So, man, wrapping up, in the beginning I asked you, who do you think you are? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to ask you, who do you think you will be?
Who do I think I will be? I'm gonna be one of the biggest motivational influencers that this generation has ever seen. Like, I could say that now, and then years later, we're gonna watch this podcast, and we're gonna be like, he spoke it into existence. I'm gonna be, you know, outside of just the poetry, like, I want my poetry to be motivational. So I want to be one of the biggest, you know, writers, motivational influencers, and I just want to be the best father and husband I can be. And I don't ever want to get divorced.
Right.
Like I want our feelings to always remain the way they are and continue to grow. And you know, say I started this with her and this is where I'm at now and I'm still with her. Like she been with me since I was in a 1-bedroom apartment on top of a tattoo shop, you know.
Right.
So to where we at now and then just where we're gonna continue to go. So I just want to be, you know, the best father I can be, the best husband, you know, the best writer, poet, and just continue to break cycles. That's literally what I want.
That's what's good, bro. Can't end it off no better than that, man. I appreciate you coming through today, man, chopping it up with me. I know a lot of what you said, there's some people that gravitate towards that.
Before you continue, I heard the little. Did you hear the ding? Is the video still recording?
Yeah, it's just it's probably just oh no, it actually did.
I think it just stopped.
It just stopped. Look, right when we was ending.